Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Angela, and so happy to have you here with us because today I have with me Lee Atherton is a fire chaplain and an end of life grief and resilience coach with over 15 years of experience. Her passions are to help people live their dying by discovering the beauty in the process and the gifts to be found to the journey with people through the white waters of grief, navigating the chaos until they reach the tranquil good of stillness. Recognizing the unique challenges of professionals who frequently encounter dying and death. Lee offers training programs to support them in their ability to continue work with the same passion and drive that first brought them to their career, even when the shit hits the fan. And that's just how you got to say it, right? I mean, the work
It is.
that these people do, and it's amazing that they have someone like you to help them through that. So thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you and um, to share with your audience. Thank
Yeah.
you for the opportunity.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how you got into this work.
I went to school years ago uh, with the intention of going into parish ministry, serving a local church as their pastor. And I met someone who became a good friend and colleague who kept telling me I should be a hospice chaplain.
Mm.
I don't know what she saw in me back then. My response was, yeah, no, thank you. I want nothing to do with that world. But then I found myself needing to cover an extended vacation for her. I was out of work and I fell in love. So initially, it was doing the end of life work as a hospice chaplain. Um, Started my own business doing similar work, helping people navigate end of life and the grief and all that. And along the way, I was introduced to fire chaplaincy, something I never, again, wasn't in the back of my mind, even never had anyone in the family who did it, but through her training, discovered, wow, what these people do for us.
Mm.
The day in and day out, right? That I think a lot of the general public just doesn't know. And I said, I, I want to help these people. So it was a call to give back to people who give so much to the community.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing. And we don't think about it unless we have someone like that in our lives, and those people are so important. It's like,
right?
yeah, like what are we doing? How come we're not thinking about them? But
Yeah,
yeah, it's amazing what they do. And I know that there's got to be some trauma there. There's got to be some things that
right,
they go through and things that they see that it's got to be hard.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And years ago, it was, just grow up, come out and with the gang, let's go have a drink and forget about it. And that's not the best way to approach what they experience all the time. So we've come up with new tools and resources um, that help them process
Mhm.
the emotions of what they experience, what they witness and are involved in, that sort of doesn't help them or doesn't make them forget that something happened, but helps decrease all that angst and the fear that's part of it,
Mhm.
and the connection to other events. It used to be that they built up, they built up, they built up, and like a pressure cooker,
Right.
it would just let go, and it would be at times more often than we want to think about the end of a career.
Right.
So how can we help them keep on going.
Right. Yeah. And, I think that makes a lot of sense to me because working with people in grief and myself going through a loss, I feel like, I think back on what happened and it's not emotionally charged like it was. You remember the past, but it's not bringing up all of that pain. So, is that
Mm.
kind of what you're working towards with these tools then?
With the first responders, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And for people who are experiencing traumatic grief, that part as well. If our parents in their older age die, that can be, that's part of life.
Mhm.
Not that it's not devastating. Um, Comparing that to losing a child to a car accident or losing your young spouse, someone in your 40s whose partner dies of a sudden heart attack,
Mhm.
that emotion that's around it is so much more.
Mm.
How can we let that piece fade so that our grief um, can heal? We never get over grief, you know that.
Mm.
But how can we make it something that's a part of our life that's easier to carry?
Yeah. Yeah, and I struggle with that. Especially at the beginning, I struggled with that because there was a lot of people that told me I would grieve for a lifetime. And the grief was
Mhm.
so intense at that time. It was so unbearable that I thought, you know what, if that's the way I'm going to be, then I don't want this, right? Like, let me out now because I'm not
Yeah.
enduring that. And then, as time went on, I realized, the happiness started to come back, the joy came back, but it was uh,
Mm.
with support, right? So having a grief coach, I work with energy healing, so I went down that road as well, and there was so many people and things that came together for me to help me through that. And so,
Mm.
yeah, I think that someone like you is really important because you can point them in the direction of where they need to go to find the tools that'll work for them.
And tools that are different for every person. I love that you
Yes.
said you work with energy healing and you went down that road.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's important to know that uh, in looking for support for our grief, that there are so many tools and resources and so many people that um, one of the messages I try to convey to people is look for the support that resonates with you.
Hmm.
Right. If you find a coach or a mental health counselor and you're feeling disconnected or that it's not helping in any way, that doesn't mean that that process is wrong. It just means say goodbye, be gentle with yourself. It's okay, and find someone who does resonate with you.
Hmm. Yeah. I truly believe that. I mean, you need to find someone who is compatible with you. And, I found that too. I remember listening to different people talking on YouTube or in summits and there would be that person that would pop up on the screen. And I'd be like, wow, you really feel like you're connected. You like what they're saying.
Mhm.
And then that that's a person you want to work with, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you also have a dog that helps you.
Oh, Shadow is amazing. So Shadow came to me initially as my service dog. So a service dog works for their handler, just one person. Think seeing eye dog is the best way to think of that.
Mhm.
A support dog is there to support others, a therapy dog. Think of the dog that comes into a nursing home. So he started as a service dog. And that was after a traumatic death that I experienced and the grief that I went through. And Shadow saved my life in that process. So finding the tool that works for you.
Yeah.
Uh, but when I got to the part of my grief journey where I felt more whole, um, I didn't want his amazingness to be wasted. So he was trained as a crisis response dog. So initially for people who have experienced trauma, he and I were a team on our first responder chaplaincy. Um, and now he comes to funerals with me that I officiate. And he's got a sense of who are the people who need me. It's amazing to watch. Dogs just have this intuition. Several times, he'll just walk over to the person who's having a hard time and lay across their feet
Mm.
and just be a presence for them. Um, Children who are uncomfortable at a funeral, he's there for them. And then on the grief journey, uh, I do a lot of work virtually, but when I can do it in person and Shadow can be a part of it, it is such an added element.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. I think animals just have a way of, well, they just feel your energy, I think, and just
Mhm.
so strongly. And I know I went down to a retreat in Sedona and they
Oh.
had a dog there. Um, and at first I was like, wow, it's kind of strange that they have a dog here because, those kinds of things, they're not really welcome. But she was such a sweet dog. And I went
Mm.
there alone. I didn't know anybody, and I'm naturally a shy person. And so this dog and I connected in a way that I don't think I've ever experienced before. Just we were there for 5 days, and I feel like I knew the dog for a lifetime, right? And there's something about that.
There is.
It's really comforting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad you had that experience. How
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I think there is a lot to that. And even just breaking the ice, as
Mhm.
you're working with people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, One of the more profound stories of Shadow in my ministry is in Florida. Several years ago, there was a condo collapse, and half of the condo just suddenly collapsed. And um, there was a long search and rescue that was going on. And part of the organization that Shadow and I trained with, National Crisis Response Dogs, was deployed there. And so I was invited along with Shadow to go down to Miami. And we were there during the week where it changed from search and rescue to search and recovery, which indicated we don't think we're going to find anyone alive anymore.
Mm.
Now we're looking for bodies, and we were in a big hotel, conference rooms, lots and lots of people, until this word came out. And interestingly, people were like, "Okay, now I can go home and start grieving." That anticipation that their loved one might be found alive was gone. It was our last day there, a couple of days after this news came out, and there were very few people. But there was this one woman sitting in a chair, just her head in her lap. And Shadow and I, our group was called, it's time to leave. So we're headed out. But he just pulled me to the side, um, and just went and laid on this lady's feet. And she kind of looked up at me. I said, "He's here for you. Is this okay?" And she nodded. And it took about half an hour. I just sat there silently. She slowly opened up, began patting him a little bit, patting his whole body, sitting up more and more. Um, she turned and looked at me, and she said she hadn't been able to tell anyone her story. but she and her
Oh,
husband lived in this condo. She had gone out for the night. Their daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren had been visiting. Their only family
oh,
lost her whole family in
wow.
that event. And it was the first time she had been able to talk about it, making that connection. Shadow did it. Shadow opened the door.
Right. Yeah. Wow. What a story. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And such loss. I think about people who've had multiple losses, and I mean multiple losses at once like that, and a
Right.
whole family. That's just
Yeah.
wow. Wow. But being able to tell the story is huge. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, not easy to do, but it seems like, and I think that's was a big part of my healing journey, is that I told my story over and over on the podcast,
Mm.
bits and pieces, right?
Yeah.
And through summits, and wrote my book, and just kept
Mhm.
retelling it. um and I think, yeah, it is healing to do that, not to
Yeah.
relive the trauma so much, but to think about those special moments that we had, and to cherish those and take those with us.
Right. I too often I hear people say my husband's name, say my
Mm.
daughter's name, talk about her, share it, share it. It's not as if they never existed. And when we can tell our story,
Mhm.
um, keeps keeps the memories alive,
Yes.
helps us helps us process it, right? Would you
Yeah.
say from the
Mhm.
oh my God to
Yeah.
the to the ah
Yeah.
in a sense.
Hmm. Yeah, you explained that really well, just right there. Without even words, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what do you think it was that allowed you to tell your story again and again? I'm always curious.
Um, I guess I was really curious at the time, and I had started these summits, and I just wanted to learn about grief, and I wanted to learn how I was going to move through this. And I was so blessed because I just asked people to be on the summit. I had never done a summit before, and they agreed, right? They agreed to come on.
Awesome,
And so then when you're interviewing, you just learn so much. I mean, they're
right?
telling you, and it was exactly, I mean, I was asking the questions I needed to know, and they were giving me the answers I needed. And it just, and then as they were talking, I was able to tell bits and pieces of my experience, and share that with them. And and then I found out that, as time went on, I just knew which memories I wanted to take, and which ones um, I could let go of, because
Ah,
it's not letting go of the person,
right,
you know, it's really letting go of the pain. and
right.
and yeah, and just, and it's just love and gratitude, right? It's all about
Mm,
that, and reaching for that, and letting go of the pain. Yeah.
right. And how important it is to process, to talk about, to process instead of um, stuffing it all in.
Mm-hmm.
I hear too often people say, you should be over it by now.
Yeah.
Why are you still sad? Yeah, right? No, no.
Yeah.
It's got to be processed. If we stuff it, I tell people it's going to come back to bite you.
Yeah. 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 My coach always used the analogy of the beach ball, holding it underwater. And she said, you can do that for a while, but she said, eventually it's going to come up, and it's going to fly in your face. You just have to
Right.
let that go. And it's not easy because I think people associate their connection with the person with the pain that they're feeling. And so to let
Mhm.
go of that is really hard because you feel like they're letting go of the past, the person. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens. We always have the person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think in some ways, and people talk about this as you move into this space where you can feel them around you and you feel like I know when I do the podcast, and I'm talking to people about their stories, I always think about Blaine because he loved that. He loved listening to people's stories and he would strike up conversations with strangers in the restaurant and just start asking them about their lives, right? And so
Cool.
as I do this, I'm always and constantly reminded of him as I'm
Mm,
doing it. And so there's some meaning in it all. And
yeah.
so, that keeps him alive and close. And, I can feel his energy and his essence and all of that around me. And so some people say, they feel even closer. um, and so it's an interesting experience. It's an interesting process to go through.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're doing this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it feels good. It's,
Hmm.
even though I'm talking about a topic that probably people are like, oh my goodness, why would you? But I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to people about their stories and the way that they move through grief. I think is incredible. And it's often through service to others that people heal. And so,
Mm,
I think that's a big thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And so once you can kind of get your feet underneath of you, and we all have gifts, right? We all
Right.
have things we can share. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
when we share it as you and I are now, I think um, it helps make the topic a little less scary,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
right? Where people don't want to talk about death.
No.
It happens. None of us,
Yeah.
it's a cliche, but so true. None of us get out of here alive.
That's right.
And there's so much fear around it that if we can help make it okay,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
that's a service too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I admire the work that you do because I think that, that's not just anyone who can sit with people who are in that space, that dark, sad, oh, just desperate sometimes space. Yeah, it's not easy to sit there with them, but you know, thank goodness that some of us can.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, probably some of the things that people have seen, the ones that you're working with have been horrific.
mm,
Um, and
hmm.
so, even more so, uh, they need someone like you for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So how do people, like, where can we get more information about you and what you do?
My website is coachrev.com. Coach like a life coach, Rev short for Reverend. Although, in my introduction that you read that last sentence, Rev doesn't mean you can't be who you are.
Yeah.
Anyway, coachrev.com or Lee at coachrev.com.
Okay. Very cool. And just tell me a little bit about what you're doing now or what you're offering.
Right now, I am offering support groups. I've got a couple of those going on, and support for any kind of loss.
Okay.
And that's a group one, and then always a one-to-one coaching.
Okay. And do you do that through Zoom as well?
I do.
Okay. Very cool. Right
Yeah.
on. So I encourage people to go check out the website. We'll make sure we have the link to your website so that people can find it easily. And is there anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't get to talk about? Advice you want to leave people with?
I would love to leave one nugget for people who are walking with someone who's grieving.
Mm,
It's hard to do that. We never quite know what to say or do. So I tell people just be there. You don't have to have the right words. Just be there, even if it's in silence.
love it. And it's so true. We think it's a difficult thing, and it is, but yet it's so simple. Just your presence is all that's needed. So
That's
true.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Well, thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, and all the best to your listeners. I
Thank you.
wish you much peace.
Aw. And thanks everyone for listening. And bye for now.